Grain.
Podcast.
Rub Vaseline on the lid.
Patreon.
Spike Jones sucks bad.
Left-wing politics.
Wes Anderson sucks.
You are a creative. We get it. What? No Q&A?
James Gray sucks. As a filmmaker, he is nothing. A zero. He's a pig piece of shit.
Never make a movie.
Joe Schmo did the fucking food.
I go mentally ill.
Fassbender.
I was obsessed with trash. The movie's trash, you know?
Get me brackage.
I'm my fucking line producer trust fund, baby.
We were watching Mean Girls.
Let the creative people talk to the money people.
Josh Sapke.
This is a film.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Final Cut Pro.
I'm crazy about sound. Have your finger on the pulse of filmmaking and society.
Steven Soderbergh sucks anyway. Instagram.
Doritos bags look mad different.
I'm a straight up slut.
Reduced black ratio.
Make out with girls.
Robert Altman. Spike Jones sucks bad.
We got Ion Pack. We got Tony Hawk is in the house.
There's a whole group of guys who pretend to be making special films.
The aesthetic of like the unshown part of the show is like very professional podcast, and then the aesthetic of what's seen is like complete shit. Yeah,
casting couch shit.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. Welcome to the Ion Pod. Drug dealer.
Thank you,
Mike Drug Dealer.
Yeah, Mike Drug Dealer.
Mike. Like on people's phones, it's like when I lived in New York, it was always like Mike DMT, and then because I did run DMT, and now it's like Mike Drug Dealer, and I see it on people's phones in LA. I'm like, there's probably like 6 other Mike Drug Dealers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you. I think we both were very aware. I've been aware of you for a minute.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the End of Comedies, I think.
Yeah.
Sick record.
Thanks. That was the first album that I made post. I spent like so many years like wanting to try to make songs because I got into music through kind of a weird channel, and that was the first album where I felt like I had finally stopped making like weird like trial music or like learning how to maybe make music. And when I felt like they were sounding like real songs, I was like, all right, let's change the name.
Yeah.
Let's start again. I mean, I did that a lot, like a bunch of people. I had like a bunch of different names, you know.
Yeah.
Bloghouse era.
Yeah,
shit.
Bloghouse noise music era was
But
like,
I will say, love the pod. And also it's the first time I've supported someone on Patreon. And I was thinking, I was
big
like,
shots.
there's probably a lot of the people that are on your Patreon are like, aren't on other Patreons, you know? Like, I feel like you bring a lot of people.
Yeah.
That
is
the
true.
Patreon
Very
should
nice.
be
I think that
glad.
is actually.
Yeah,
really
I
true.
can see. I've actually noticed that before.
Yeah.
There are
Like, I don't know a single other thing that's on Patreon, you know? You guys have your own lane there. And
Sick.
I know. What do we do with that?
I have no idea.
How do we really monetize?
Yeah, exactly.
I have no idea.
No, I appreciate that. But yeah, I was listening to the record on my walk over here. It was my first time, in a few years, but straight fire. I mean, the track you did with Wise Blood specifically was like huge for me when it came out. Like,
Yeah.
I wore that.
She killed it.
Yeah, you killed it.
That one called Suddenly.
Suddenly.
Yeah, I always tell people this, but that song, like, Natalie was actually really mad at me when we recorded it because she was playing in the Bay and I was living in Oakland for a period of time. And I think maybe I tried to open up for her, but it was like awful or something, like by myself. And then after her show, she had to keep going on this tour. And like, I had just written that song and we went out. She played the show. We got drinks. We partied. And then she was going to stay in my room. And then I was going to go stay down the street. And like, I was like, Natalie, this is the bed. Also, I just wrote this thing. I think it's really tight. I really want you to sing it. And she was like, absolutely. When I get back to New York, send it to me. And I was just like, really impatient, Natalie. Do you think you could try it now? And I made her do it at like 3 a.m. and she was like triple tracking the vocals and she was so fucking. I mean, our whole friendship, she's always like so annoyed with me. But then like halfway through the song, she's like, "This is dope, but like you're gonna have to leave as soon as the last thing." And I'm like, but then it's just funny because then I guess people really like that song, but she was like.
Sometimes magic is born out
idiot,
of
dude. During the making of it. Yeah.
But that was, good direction on your part. Probably give a impassioned, angry performance.
Yeah.
Tension can bring that out. Yeah. There's definitely a magic there that's really special. Drug dealer as a name.
Yeah.
And DMT previously.
I mean, dude, like, I'm sorry. Like
you fuck with drugs.
No, I used to like psychedelics, and now I'm like one of those people that like when I do psychedelics, I just like think about like things I forgot to do like 2 years ago, or like respond to an old friend or something.
Right.
I just like it's too crazy for me. But that's why I like the name, because when I go through customs like in Europe, they like tear me apart, like they like try to like tear down my ego and like figure out what is wrong with me. And I'm like, dude, there's so much stuff going on here that's wrong. Like I don't have any drugs.
It's a good ego
like
exercise.
When I went through when I first called it the band that and made that record, the first European tour, we were going through London, like that's where we were being processed, and this dude was like, "Okay, what the hell are you guys doing?" And I was like, "This is our band manifest. We're playing a tour." And he looked at the name and he was like, "I was just about to go home, dude." He was like, "You gotta go down 2 floors to the basement." And then he was just like, "Just sit here." And he went into this other room with like a computer with this other guy and shut the door. And then I heard them listening to like a couple tracks of mine, just like muffled through, and they like listened to like half of each song, like a lot of it, and then and that was it. I think they heard it and they were like, "This is so derivative that he's not dangerous." And then at the end he was like, "I used to go see Brian Jonestown, mate." I was like, wow, this is psycho simulation.
Yeah.
Big shouts to Anton and Andy. Big shouts to Brian.
Big shouts.
Big shouts to Andy Timmener.
Yeah.
I actually, that episode got me really sparked because I don't know. I just
boss.
I always liked Dig and We Live in Public so much, but like I'm one of those people who like at the party I'm like I'm a cinephile, but I like actually don't look into the people enough, which is why I love your podcast. But she's a legend.
She's a legend.
Huge legend.
The way that her outlook on just like go out there and try something that's
for a
kind
really
of
long time, relentlessly.
Yeah, that's like how I operate in art, and a lot of people do think I'm a Philistine because they're just like, you think there's no barrier to entry,
Right.
But that's like really inspired me because secrets out. I'm like would rather be a filmmaker than musician.
Oh, sick.
I tell like my label that they're like, don't tell anyone else. But the truth is that that's the case, and the way that she goes about it, it makes me feel like I could try again.
Totally.
Yeah.
I liked what you were saying right before we started recording about how like filmmakers want your music, but you're so much more interested in actually developing a score or like doing something that isn't like your
I just like
shit.
I really like classic scores. I really like what's his name, like Jerry Goldsmith, or like Italian people like Alessandro Alessandroni, or like Piero Piccioni, and like I just like that kind of music that's like composer based. And now I feel like just like with everything, filmmakers just want stuff that has already been released or is pop music and is in the canon of like the future.
Yeah.
But I really like obviously like with my music and stuff, it's the same with scores. Like I like the old traditional melodic orchestral stuff. And so whenever like my songs get used for like a movie, I wish I could just like hit up the director and be like, why don't you just take a chance and let me make a Mellotron piece?
You could do that.
Instead. I
You
mean, I
could hit
guess
them.
so, but I don't know. I've tried.
Is there like a middleman? Is like all middlemanned out with like label and like the communication?
I just got signed to a publishing company, and that's kind of during the pandemic. We figured out the contract, and now it's starting. So that's I'm hoping that we can, whatever. I just like make a lot of fake scores, basically. Like I have like so much stuff. Like when I'm not, for me to make a song it's not like what I do. I don't sit at home and like try to write songs all day. Like it's so rare. But when it comes, it's just an idea, and I'm like I flesh it out. But I do make like just incidental like music, piano music all the time. So I think about. I mean, I think a lot of musicians like they think it being accompaniment to like to cinema. But
yeah. Well, the thing about Jerry Goldsmith and like those classic scores is the melodies were very evocative, and it had this kind of upfront melody that was supposed to kind of lead the scene along. Whereas a lot of modern scores are more. It does function in this social media way of like vibe. It's like let's get a mood going, which of course has its place as well. But I can't think of many modern scores that have that kind of spotlighted melody. You know what I'm saying?
Which is obviously something that's big for you. Like Suddenly, for example.
Yeah.
And big shouts to Natalie and Westwood too.
Insane voice.
Insane voice, but like the patchwork of melodies in that song are very specific, and like they, it moves into different movements, and like, but it is very like melody based. With like a cinematic feel to it. Is there like, do all those melodies come to you differently, or like at different times, and you're stitching them together, or like?
I mean, I kind of know what you're saying because, I mean, to understand it is about how I got into music, but I really don't understand harmony that much. Like I'm one of those people that just like hears a top line melody and then just like figures out how to present it. So, and that is similar to I think a lot of those old movie scores too. Like you're saying, like there'd be one violin line that was the theme of the movie, and then whatever is going on behind it is mixed low, and like I love that sound.
Same.
And a lot of music now is more maximal. There's like as many melodies as we can fit in, and I think that's one of the reasons why I guess thankfully like some part of my music has found any success is because I don't use old like gear from the 60s or I'm not trying to make it sound old, but what I do like about music from that period is not like an aesthetic or like a lifestyle like people think that I do. Right. It's actually just that it's all more concise. It's based around this lead singer singing this melody, and like it's like there's too much stuff going on for me in a lot of music going around, and I like listening to all of it, but I really like when something has like the star, like a melody can be the lead actor or whatever,
Yeah.
But I mean, I also think of doing music as directing I think of it in terms of my filmmaking aspirations too, because like I was saying, like I got into music late in life. So I never grew up mastering any instrument or anything. And I hear a melody in my head while I'm playing the piano. I just like play a couple chords and then I hear this melody and then I bring it to the people that I collaborate with. And they're kind of like the crew. Like I think of like Cassavetes a lot. Like when I go to make a record, I'm just like, I have these friends. They're going to stay pretty close by and I'm going to pull a melody out that I'm thinking of, and they're gonna like help me really construct it with like minimal personnel, but like just people who are really talented at fleshing those things out with me. And like I know how to motivate these people that really inspire me, and it's a good collaboration.
And like their strengths, so
100%.
You know how to, when you have an idea or like a seed for something. You know what to give to each of them that will like they will bring the most to. I feel like it's really hard with collaboration where a lot of people, they're like, I want to make music together,
because, or like, we should make music because you do something that's really similar to what I do. I'm like, you're the last, that's the last person I want to collaborate with.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to collaborate with people that have a completely different approach. And, you know, to me, that's beautiful. But a lot of those people who are like, we would make such good music together. I'm like, they get in the room together and they're like, I want to do everything. And the other person's like, I want to do everything.
Yeah.
You know?
It's too similar.
I can stay in my lane too. Like, everyone wants to do a bunch of things all the time if they're creatively ambitious. But I know how to stay in my lane in terms of being like, okay, like, I suck at music. Like, my band is like, yo, stay out of our way. And they're like helping me make my song. I'm like, for sure.
Yeah.
Not gonna step on your toes. Like, they're like, we know how to do this. Okay, the idea is good, but your part is
right. Well, I think that's a good attitude because you know, I make my own music, but I've also played in lots of other bands, so I know the difference of like playing someone else's thing and being there to kind of support it versus being the one who has the ideas.
Yeah.
And when I'm the one who has the ideas, I need to be the least talented person in the room.
Yeah. It
like,
feels so good to be the least talented person in the room. Also, if people are helping you, you're like, I mean, I'm just very grateful. You know what I mean?
No, it's the sickest place creatively to operate from.
Yeah.
You should be a director. Make the movie.
Well, yeah, let's all right.
Let's
get into that.
Instincts apply to like all of your collaborators musically. Like if those were actors in the same sense, like that's the perfect way to make a movie.
100%. But that's the whole thing. I mean, like just to give you a little backstory, because I mean, you probably know, you might not, but I like, from when I was really young, I just wanted to make movies. Like since I think my mom said like when I was 7, I gave her a spiel that was like, I need to be able to watch any rating of film because it's what I want to do with my life. Mom.
Right.
She was like, you're 7. And I was like, I need to watch all of Wes Craven's movies right now. I think he's a genius. My mom's just like, you're such a little like, she talks about it now. She's like, he's so manipulative. He just wanted to see those movies, which is true. And I told my friend's son recently, he asked me when I was out with my friend Kenny and his son. If Kenny hears this, it's like, yeah, dude, I totally am trying to manipulate your son in the right ways.
Right. Yeah.
He was like, Mike, I heard that you like movies. And he's like, I like thrillers. And I'm like, me too. And he's like, my mom won't let me watch them. And I was like, all right, here's what you do. This is what I did. But I was like, if you do this, she's going to let you watch the films, but you have to be very convincing that you want to be a filmmaker. Also, side note, it's probably going to accidentally lead you to wanting to be a filmmaker, which is a good thing. He was like, yeah. And then Kenny came back I was like, all right, let's talk about something else. But it's funny because since I was very young, I was really serious about doing film. And I think I'm one of those, I think there's a lot of people like me in the music industry. Like, I think we talked about this once. It's like a lot of the people I know who make music, they wanted to make films, but it's an audacious task, dude. Like, it's so much easier to be like, tell a linear format story with like a couple people just jamming, you know? And you can get, a narrative across that way. And it's happening omnipresently, music. Like, so many reasons people like me get funneled into doing music, but then we're always like, or at least for me, it's never left me. But like, I've never felt like, yes, as soon as I started to do music and people liked it, I was never like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I was always like, no, I just want to make film. But like a lot of people, I think I went up to the college point. I never played music. I was never interested in it, doing it. I was always interested in doing film, but when I got to the point and I was like in college and it was time to make films, I was like, you haven't even lived. Like, your films are going to be trash.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to make a bad student film, but I went to also what a lot of people do, I think, is they go to art school because they want to make movies. They want to go like the David Lynch route.
Right.
But then I was just in art school being like, I shouldn't be here, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do here. But I went to MICA. So then right when I was like, I'm not ready to make movies, I need to have some life experience, I was just in Baltimore and the Wham City art scene was burgeoning. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna get into this. And that's how I started making music. Like, basically, like, because of Dan, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of knows this, I think, but it's like, You know how many hundreds of kids could say that to
Yeah,
Dan, who
right.
lived in Baltimore at that
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just funny because I started making music because I wasn't ready to make film. And then now it's like,
You're ready.
it's pushed me, you know, people like have liked my music. And I think it's because that's baked into it to some degree. Like,
Right.
you know, like I want to tell a clear narrative story with some of the music that I make. And a lot of people that make music are like, I don't know, a little less concerned with the narrative. Like they're actually more into the musicianship than
Right.
I am. And yeah, it's just a weird.
Yeah.
I got some weird baggage with this shit.
No, that's a common theme. I think that more like producers and musicians now more than ever have such impeccable directorial sense in terms of like telling their character story of like their
Yeah.
you know, pop artist or whatever their musician persona is, that is very like film writing, very cinematic.
Yeah.
I would love to see I mean, you're like this.
Yeah.
I think you'd make a great movie. Have you tried?
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to make like a couple films so far in my life, and like I was thinking about it, I was like, what ones can I talk, like which ones am I like abandoning, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I've tried to make films. It's fun.
It is.
It's so much harder than making music that
Yeah.
once you've made music and it's like, we wrote this song and we recorded it in the same sitting for
Yeah.
like that song with Natalie at 3 a.m. like
Yeah.
drunk. And then like you see how much it means to people. Then you go to make a film and you work like so hard for like this like one like beginning of making a film. You're just like, this is insanely intense. And like, but I will say the one film that I started that I will tell you about.
Yes.
I can't. It's one of those things like you could never finish it, you know, or like I could never finish it at this point in my life. But when I went to go work on it for the first time, it's a documentary. But the first time I traveled was here, basically to New Jersey, to do the first shoot for the documentary. I left the thing and I just like burst into tears because it's like when you do something like I do when you're a musician, but you feel like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and you've been wanting to do this thing for so long. I've talked about films that I want to make all the time, but that was the first time where I like spent all my money like trying to pursue this film. And after the first day of shooting, I remember I went to like the Wallet. You guys ever go to the Wallet?
No.
It's like where Mac DeMarco and some of the people from Tunsearch Band did.
Oh,
and
the
Justin
Myrtle
Fry,
Broadway spot.
PC Worship.
Yeah,
Justin Fry
I
lived there. It's
I
on
haven't.
Myrtle.
Oh wow, I forgot about
But
that.
for years, like I would basically like live there, like whenever I was in New York, like on the floor. But I went there right after this shoot, you know, and it was raining, and they opened the door, and I just started like seeing somebody that knows me really well, and realizing like this is what I want to do. And then like after that day, like Mac was like, dude, if you don't make movies, you're gonna be fucked for life. Like, you know what I mean? He was like, it means so much to you, and like, I don't know. But yeah, I tried to make this documentary, and I bit way more than I could chew.
Well, it needs that level of dedication though, because it is hard. But I mean, it's fun. It's hard. It takes a long time. Hopefully, it's worth it at the end of the day. But something you're saying is interesting to me. Like, I don't know how long it took to make Suddenly, for example, but like, yeah, it does exist and has reached a lot of people. You can spend like exponentially more time making a movie, and it can mean nothing.
I know
to anyone.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
Which is like horribly like terrifying.
For you,
and it's a huge risk.
You're scared.
I'm scared.
You should. I mean, yeah, I am too. For like doing that with film as well. Yeah,
totally.
It's so scary. It's the best. It's the best fear. I think film is really interesting though at this moment compared to doing music. The reason I feel like I'm ready to try is number one, I'm finally like stable in my like career with music. I feel like I could step away from it for a year and continue to make it afterwards. But secondly, like the music industry is so oversaturated now. Like kids come up to me at my shows, like these young kids who are like, they're not there because like I'm like a cool artist. They're like, I want to be a songwriter too. Like you really care about songwriting, and I'm like, good luck, dude. Like, people do not like the blogosphere era is gone. I don't know how you're gonna get your stuff out there.
Yeah.
And the barrier to entry is so low with music that like literally like every single person in the world has like
the tools.
There's just stuff on Spotify.
I was talking about this with people last night about how the optimistic way to look at something like this, because we're talking about how people are saying how they think it kind of happens across all forms. People I were with were writers. They were talking about in the writing sphere, but it's definitely true with short films now as well. Of it's more accessible than ever to technically finish something and get it in the public sphere. Yeah, it's like you can upload it immediately. So the thing you're saying about this barrier for entry being so low, the optimistic way to look at it is this is so many people who like never kind of put in the time.
Yes.
Is just a byproduct of something that's ultimately good, which is increased accessibility for everyone. So that's the most optimistic view, is you have to just like have faith that the people who aren't really in it, it won't last, and that's just a byproduct of increased accessibility.
What I was getting at with the whole, and then with film as opposed to music.
Yeah.
It feels like the barrier to entry has been so high, and I think that's like divisively false now. Like I think that like if you actually stick through and like finish a feature film, it's like, to me, I'm like, I want to see it, because I'm like, everyone is like, oh, I just made a track. Yeah. I'm like, that's sick. Like I'll listen to it.
Right.
But like making a film, walking that line all the way through is like, if you do that, I personally feel like it should be good, or at some point you should have realized that like these last 4 years are a fucking waste. But like, I just think that it's exciting. Like if I was to spend a lot of time making a film, it's like, I don't know, like, you know, like there's something about if you're just able to finish it, I feel like there is a platform. Like people, that's a serious gesture of artistry, you know, and making like a EP or an album is like, I don't know if it holds the same water for me, but
I think there are different types of gambles.
Yeah.
Like it's like walking into a casino, it's like making tracks or like making EPs or maybe making albums feels to me like putting like $1 or $5 or $10 into the slot machine. Making movies like putting 30 grand on red.
Totally.
And like you don't find out whether you hit or not for like a couple years.
Right.
Which is exciting. Like there is an adrenaline rush that goes along with like, I'm putting everything into this.
Right.
And I may lose.
It separates people is kind of what I was like, in a cool way. Like there's not an oversaturation of like cool new directors. There should be, but like people have convinced themselves that would be too hard. They've given up on that dream. They're like, I'm too, you know, like it's too much work. No, I don't know. Maybe they have too many psycho problems. Like I can't collaborate with all of those people.
I actually don't know if that's a bad thing though.
No,
because,
I think it's a good thing.
Because that's the problem with music, is that it is easier to do. So people never give up like that because they're like, I could just keep doing this. I can make a new song tomorrow. I can make a new song the next day. Yeah.
The ADD economy works in film's favor to some degree because it takes so like people don't have the attention span to like see it through.
But this is also a good thing for like doubly good thing, because a part of a frustration I have with music is exactly this. And then if I complain about it, I sound like some like bitter old guy who's like, oh, these kids like they never put in the time, they never paid their dues, which is not really what I mean. But it is this thing of, you know, people who really do know what they're doing in music, or like really do have a vision or whatever. They do put a lot into this stuff. And it used to be you had to put a lot into music. Now you don't. Yeah. So it kind of like almost devalues the whole thing. And I think that's partially why what you're saying, like good luck, why the music industry is in such a weird limbo right now.
Yeah.
I think that's because, I mean, maybe this sounds like mean to, you know, young kids making shitty music, but it's just like, it did kind of devalue the whole thing.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully that's just a necessary byproduct of increased accessibility that can be made up for in other positive ways. But it did happen, I think, and in a way that probably can't fully happen with film, just because it's inherently there's so much more required to keep the engine running.
Totally. you're ahead of the game though, because I think people who have honed their craft creatively, even if it's in a different medium like music,
Walking into film
yeah. makes sense. Like, you know, we had Ben Hosey, who's like frontman of a band, and he made a really good movie, and I don't think him not being in the band and going straight into film would have served that movie better.
Yeah.
I think whatever influences and like creative acumen he gathered along the way of doing his band helped make that movie good.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
I think so too. I mean, like you said, like the way specifically that I record with my collaborators, I mean, I watch documentaries about filmmakers. I don't watch as many documentaries about like Steely Dan. Like I like see the way that people work together. Like, you know, like I really like Ryan Trecartin. I really like the way that he, you know, Ryan Trecartin, right? The way that he made his stuff. Like he's like, let's go get a house in Florida and none of us are leaving till this fucking movie's done.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the way that I like to go record my music.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's create like a matrix of like,
yeah,
you know, like let's live inside this project if we can. If you
build
guys are
the
down,
world,
if it's worth it for you, you know,
Yeah.
let's you know, get in each other's heads, you know, or whatever.
And I think the art school thing can work too, because like someone like Lynch, who like he was just a painter for a long time before he made films, but like I don't think he would have just gone straight into films and made them good.
No, I don't
without
think so.
like developing some sort of visual.
He went to art school
style.
and then like did the AFI or
he did. Yeah, I forget
what it was.
He went to the art college in Philadelphia and was a painter for a long time, and he started making like moving paintings and like animated stuff, and then at some point he like pitched Eraserhead, I believe, to AFI, and they gave him money to do it, and then he spent like 5 years making Eraserhead. But like that's a long time to making your first movie. Like he was making shorts and stuff, but like there was no feature for. Like he was 6 years into filmmaking.
And didn't he work on Eraserhead for like 6 or 7 years?
Crazy. The whole process of Eraserhead. I finally heard about it, and I was like,
"It's insane."
It's almost like a less Machiavellian, like Kubrick situation, where everyone working on it was like losing their lives to it. But but Lynch is like so sweet and like passionate about it that they're like, you know, they're living in like one of his like dream sequences.
Yeah, exactly.
That becomes the game at some point, though, is like keeping people stoked on it and like keeping people engaged in a sense that like, oh, this is going to be something at some point, because it's so crazy up until the time that it's not and it's out and people fuck with it. Like it's an insanity until the moment that it exists.
I've had a lot of situations where I collaborate with people and it's like really fun for them because like I get kind of like you know, I'll like slip into a character, and then like my guitarist Mikey will also for the week that we're recording in New York, and you know, like we get pretty silly like when we're recording music, and I think people, people need that. Like if someone's gonna, also it's funny. It's something that I was thinking about this weekend when we were here. I was like, it's funny that like there are really no bands anymore. Like Drugdealer is a band. Like I don't know. I think so. Like. I need all of those people to do it, but like I'm a solo person signed to a label. It's all so confusing.
Yeah.
But like for someone to want to play with you and create with you, and really be integral to your process, you really have to appreciate them and make sure that they're, you know, involved through and through and like taken care of. And the people that I work with are like my best friends. There's like no hired guns, you know, like, but they need to be engaged and they need to know, not just from your track record, that you want to finish things, you know, like, and that's really, I think that's like my skill as a musician is like finisher. Like it's not piano. It's not like singing. Like it's like, project management and like vibe management. That's like literally what I play in my band. I feel like
that's what it's all about, I think.
They're all such geniuses. Like everyone in my band like is like one of those people that you should know their music, but they like hold it close to their chest and never release it, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever. Someday I'll leak it all.
Yeah. Well, another interesting thing about hearing you say all this though, and like your film aspirations and just, you know, I mean, we've talked about it before, so I kind of get a sense of how you feel. And this is a recurring theme on this show, is a constant feeling of dissatisfaction. And there's definitely like the whole other tier of people behind you who are like, I wish what I had what that guy had.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then
It's huge.
there's a tier of people behind them saying, I wish I had what those guys had.
Well, even you saying that you
happens to
watch
me even.
documentaries about filmmakers.
Yeah.
Like I only watch music documentaries.
Yeah, right.
No,
I
Consistency.
couldn't. I wouldn't be
Oh,
caught dead.
okay, I
watching
see
how
what
to make a
the
movie.
recurring
And I started getting more and more into movies the more frustrated I got.
Yeah, you watch more movies than I do.
Yeah, and I always
I'm
talk
watching
to
like Cure live.
Yeah,
That's like
and I always talk to you about how much how jealous I am of a collaborative film set because it feels, more open and generous and stimulating than making music, especially this like sitting and writing music by yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate doing this. I'm so
Yeah.
bored of it. I'm gonna jump out a window. And
grass is always greener.
and we always, we talked about it with Theo and so many other people who were like, oh man, like you're in such a great position, like you're crushing it. And he's like, I don't know, I think like you guys are in a better position.
Yeah.
It's just like this is a
Theo's-
constant
yeah,
recurring
Theo's
thing.
like my most successful friend, and
Yeah.
like I mean, this is nothing. I'm not saying he's sad necessarily, but like he really thought that we had it better, and I was like, bro, you're insane. Like your name is on the marquee of IFC. Like,
No,
you
and
won
I talk about
Sundance,
with
like,
people who I know I do this podcast. They're saying they're like, dude, like you're crushing it. Like this is so good. I'm like, yeah, I
this is
know,
not
but
what we want to do.
I also like still feel as unsatisfied as ever. And
it's-
but I'm like, well, but you have it good because you. And they're like, no, I have never felt more
Well,
dissatisfied.
The
It's just
thing that
it's
you're talking about
always-
is, I mean, I know why it's recurring because it's just recurring in
In life.
society. I
Yeah.
think. But
Yeah.
like one of the things in terms of art that makes me think about is like, do you think that we do these things that we get in these like juxtaposed like channels of inspiration as to what we actually are doing, or what? Do you think it's because it's the only way to focus on what we're doing? Like,
I think so.
For me, I'm like, man, like I'm doing this music, like I really appreciate it, but really it's like comes from like my film aspirations.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
actually, is that because I'm supposed to make music, but like me wanting to be a filmmaker my whole life is like actually just a ruse so that I don't, as a musician, like think of myself as a musician too much.
Yeah.
And that's why some people can actually be successful because they're not that attached to the thing that they're doing. Like, does that help the thing that you're doing
Yeah.
be organic and actually grow and not die after the first album or something? Like, like that dissatisfaction is like case in point. Like it's how a lot of people like move as an artist. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what is satisfaction as being an artist? Like, like I see some people like feel that way and I'm like, oh, that's the last album that
Yeah.
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
matters.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I know,
that's
it's so true.
I mean, I
Yeah.
just think that we have to trick ourselves like at Ouroboros, like chase your own tail. a
Right,
little
right.
bit,
Well-
in order to keep making something that is about real life and not just about
No,
your
totally.
ego,
Well, so I think the reason I like watching movies so much, the more music I make, is because, when I'm kind of in that part of my brain of writing music and like being like in creative mode or whatever,
yeah,
and I listen to music, all I can do is hear it in context of writing music. Like
Yeah.
I can't hear it kind of objectively.
yeah,
So and in that, if I get too lost in that, it becomes this like negative feedback loop of that's what happens when the thing we always talk about, just like the LA sessions vibe
Yeah.
of just like people writing and trying to
The new Bieber
jump off what this other songwriter's doing, and it becomes this weird like circle jerk of people just kind
and
of
it influences the way that pop music,
yeah.
in the indie world or whatever,
Yeah.
it influences the way that it goes
Right.
and sounds.
So when I watch a movie, I'm not thinking of it as a filmmaker or as an artist. I can like watch it objectively and kind of internalize the emotion and the story and all this stuff in a more pure way that like has no context in my own life. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting about that point? When I watch a film that I really, there's a lot of films that I do watch and I can't watch them objectively. Like I'm pausing them, I'm like writing ideas and like,
Yeah.
like I'm like one of those people that watches films, like maybe like, like a new Dutch surrealist film, like Borgman or something like that. Like I'll watch that and I'll be like, so jealous. Like, this is the greatest. Like I love this thing. Like it's so inspiring to me that I like can't really watch it.
Right.
So what I do watch most of the time and McGregor was like, you should bring this up, is like things like Enemy of the State, because then I can finally like just watch it and just be like, oh, I just want to watch a movie. But like, so I watch thrillers a lot because it doesn't really feel like exactly the lane that I want to exist in as a filmmaker. So I think people do that too, which is related like to distracting yourself. Like you have to be able to be a fan in the medium that you want to work in. You can't just be breaking everything down based upon what you want to do. So you have to find things that are your entertainment genre, and then you have to find things.
And I think that's a pretty common, like in everyone I know who likes movies, it's just like they have a whole list of things they want to explore, but they're like, no, let's just like watch a thriller or like something like neo-noir tonight. That's like, that's how I kind of just get into it.
That's where I'm at in a different zone, but I'm just there with like comedy. I'm like watching like Mike Judge shit. And like
comedy's the ultimate like distractor of somebody who wants to follow some serious pursuits. You know, like comedy is there. It's really the most serious intellectual art form.
Absolutely.
It serves as a way for people to like digress in their life just by laughing and you know, like I mean, comedy is just the deepest, dude.
It actually is.
It actually really is.
I think it's like the final form.
It is the final form.
Yeah, I agree.
The end of comedy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to wait, I'm just trying to think. You guys have interviewed so many people that like touch my life. You know, like
oh, like who?
Well, Krell, I know Tom, and like Sophie is actually like when I got signed to Stone's Throw to do this R&B project with Sasha, she worked there and now she's signed to them. She's an old friend, and Dan, because like, you know, like I said, Dan was like kind of one of my big inspirations to start doing
us too.
Art, really.
Just in general, just like as a cultural someone.
You know who's what I was thinking is you guys should try to interview like Batmos or at least Drew or something.
Yeah.
Because when I left Micah and I started to make music, I eventually I lived in this house that was called the Tribal House. It was kind of like
I've been to the Tribal House.
A bunch of like
big shouts.
The most amazing like noise experimental.
Big shouts, Chris Shields.
Chris Shields is the best. But
we love
but anyways, I lived in this house and like Matmos, you know, they're like some of like the the Godfathers.
That was like
and bless us with like knowledge, and we'd be like, you know, but they would be like, you guys need to watch this movie. So we would all like sit around a lot and like there was a video store, like a holdout last video store in Baltimore. But I just remember when I left Micah and I was living there in Baltimore, Drew or Martin would drop like some movie that you guys should watch, and we would all sit around as like a family and like watch these films that they told us about, and like their taste, they just have the best taste.
What were they telling you to watch?
Well, they told us to watch. Have you ever seen Demon Seed?
No.
It's like basically they told us to watch this movie by Donald Cammell, who later I would get obsessed with as a filmmaker. But it's just like a film. It's like one of those early Smart House sci-fi thrillers, like pre-Black Mirror, but it's like in the early 80s. So it's like, or even the late 70s, but it's like this guy invents this smart house with his wife. They work on the project for so long, like the first house that's fully automated. They work on the project for so long that their marriage falls apart. So they're divorcing, and they were both living in their first smart house prototype, and they're both moving out of it. And I don't know, going their separate ways. But he moves out first, and she's like going to stay there one more night. And the house is like, now's my chance. Like, I'm deeply in love with you, and you're never leaving, you know?
Whoa.
And the house is like, whatever. It gets really crazy. Like, the house tries to make a hybrid house human baby with her. And it's just so out there, but so beautifully made. And I was like, I would have never heard of it, but just, you know, people like that in Baltimore, they love movies there. I mean, you know, like John Waters is like in the midst, and like
ethos,
shout out to Eric Allen Hatch.
I was already really into film my whole life, but when I moved there and I was in the music scene there, it was just really good for me because you know, it's one of those places where the musicians don't just think about doing music. Like they think of
everything.
art as a 360
Exactly.
deal.
Exactly.
You know?
We've given big shouts to the Baltimore scene.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's worth reiterating because like even for us, like from Philly to New York, like that Baltimore scene was always huge.
Yeah, and
just whatever the spirit was, and
when we were in high school, we thought Baltimore was like
the coolest shit.
Yeah,
Micah, like everybody coming out of Micah.
Well, Micah is like this splash pad where everyone goes who are like vaguely want to be creative, like me, but they don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Really, and then they go there and they're like, let's just move into this warehouse. Like all these people are making this sick art, you know, and they're making this institution look like not my path or something,
right?
You know,
yeah.
So it's just really cool because when we would inevitably leave that school, we moved into like the copycat building. Like I moved into Dan's room. That was the first like out of college.
Right.
He was finally leaving the copycat. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I've been
yeah.
here too long, and I moved into his room. You know, and like it was like moving into actual art school. Like Micah was like a facade for me. You know. Like,
yeah, totally.
And then like I got into this like completely disgusting like should be condemned warehouse, but it was like a dormitory. There was like hundreds and hundreds of kids living there, you know, on different floors, different apartments. And it really was like, that was like college for me.
Yeah.
It fostered something.
Yeah.
Clearly in a lot of people.
Dan was living, I mean, I guess it was Wham City. They were like decommissioning it. And he was like the last person to leave. And a bunch of people that I kind of knew from school had taken that floor of the warehouse over. And they were starting to live there, and I was going to move in, but he was the last person to leave. So when I came in, he was like rushing in to like, he's like, wait, hold on, to like take a bunch of trash out or something from his room. But he lived in the room I moved into of his was just an old freight elevator that was stuck on that floor permanently. So like you had to like, you were in the kitchen of this, you know, like this shoddy DIY built kitchen. And then you had to like, every time you go to your room, you had to like shimmy down this like 3-foot wide hallway and then like open this huge freight elevator door. And there was like a loft built in there. It was like,
wow.
It was just like a rat's cage, dude.
Sounds
But that's like,
safe.
Yeah, that's why, you know, and then I was like, whoa, he like made this music in here and like, he's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Is that where he made like his early
No, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know where he lived that whole time, but he lived in that apartment for a lot of like, I don't know, Spider-Man of the Rings, probably. Like,
damn. So that's where the goat shit happened.
I know. Yeah, it was, you know, the
elevator.
Baltimore lifestyle was always, you know, I was like, this is one of the coolest enclaves of America.
There was just so much like interplay between people who were working in different mediums, and like it really did feel like open in that creative output. But it also was really beautiful because nobody was like, I want to go play in New York, or like, I wonder if like people in LA like know about our music. Like,
right.
It was such a bubble that like, I mean, literally I was like just playing for the people that live here. I don't know what, like 1,000 people scene here was like the end all be all. And that was really good for fostering the beginning of doing art, you know, and then that also can run its course at some point. And then so a bunch of people left, and then that scene kind of dissipated for me in the sense that I knew it, but I just have a network of people all around the world now that used to live there. But yeah, it was really inspiring. And I know people say this about a lot of scenes around that time of like the blogosphere music era. Like a lot of scenes were, anytime I go to a city, the music scene was so lit. But
well,
Baltimore was crazy.
It's funny you say that because when back in this same era when we were in Philly, that was like why I moved to New York why I wanted to come to New York so bad when I was 18, is because I was actually frustrated with how no one in Philly had any aspiration outside of Philly. It was like, you know, or any type of like meaningful professional aspiration even. It was there to like, no, we're just doing our thing, and like we want our friends to like it. It's just like this self-contained art scene. Which as I started to get older, I was like, nah, I want to like break out of this. I want to like expand my horizon. But you know, now looking back on it, I was like, no, that was a beautiful thing.
You're nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
all of us.
Philly and Baltimore, like represent more of an ideal to me. I mean, as much as I love New York, like what you're talking about doesn't really exist in New York as much.
Not at all.
But is it sort of existing here? And this is why you're doing this, but for film a little bit, because
Yeah, no, the indie
Yeah.
film scene in New York is certainly a thing, and was like the first like world I was introduced to when I moved here. I was like, oh, this is like there's like these characters,
Yeah.
there's these people doing this thing, and like music. I mean, like there's stuff going out in like Queens and Brooklyn and like kind of further out that like I'm sure is cool, but like I just was not visible to me as much as
Yeah.
as film was.
Yeah.
And like even the film scene has its own problems and is roastable.
I get everything is
Everything's
roastable at this
roastable,
point, microwavable. Like, but like the thing, there's scenes for film, just like because I'm such a little nerd about it, like
Yeah.
that I like get in my head like nostalgic for. Like I wasn't even like I was like a paramecium, like I wasn't even
Yeah.
an adult.
Yeah.
But like I was like I think about like Austin when like Linklater was there and like all of the people around him. He's like, we're gonna make this movie, and then they start making movies, and it snowballs. And, like,
Yeah.
I always want that to happen, but everywhere around me, it's like that's happening with music, and I'm like,
Right.
damn, like
Yeah.
it's really hard to convince people. Like, hey, let's make feature films.
Right.
It's hard to get people on board, but yeah,
It is.
and myself included.
No,
But
it's really
it's
hard.
strong here.
Yeah, I
is
know.
strong. People are
Maybe we should move here. Actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was the big question in moving here was like,
Yeah.
oh, if you're into movies, you go to LA.
Yeah.
Like LA is where movies are.
There's another one of those like dichotomies where it's
Yeah.
like I moved to New York to do film, but I'm from LA. Movies are in LA, but now I think I should be in New York. Like, it's like, what the hell are we doing, dude?
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Just-
Get it together.
everybody should just make the shit. It doesn't matter where you are. Just figure it out.
Yeah, I know.
Make your scene. I mean, and I think that's sort of like, if there's any enjoyment that we get out of this is like maybe defining a scene or like feeling like there's some collective
The pack.
The pack.
The
yeah.
pack is real.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. Like, I think what I was kind of getting at is I feel like I represent some part of the pack where it's like,
You do.
damn, I want to be a filmmaker, like so bad. Like I do this other thing, like, and it's a really good podcast for that because you're talking to people who, I'm not a visible person in the film world, but I'm there in the trenches, like wanting to be and thinking about it all the time. And your podcast is cool for that, But then you talk to like these heavy hitter film people who, like Andy or Theo, and it's enlightening,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think the community element is important though. Like I think you are just as important as any of the other people. Like other people can like come in and drop knowledge about like their experience in the film world, but I think what we were talking about earlier in terms of just like people honing their creative craft is very relevant to being a good filmmaker or being a good artist. Like I think ultimately like we're probably more interested in just like people who make good sick art rather than like, oh, who's making the sick next level film. There just happens to be a scene here for that where people are very motivated to see that through to the finish line. I recognize that less in other places is what's kept me here long enough. Like I've been to LA enough to feel like there is an indie scene there though, but that one that I'm like less attracted to, or one that's maybe more polluted by Hollywood, because how could it not be?
Yeah.
It's literally right there. Like in New York for a movie to break through. I mean, got to give big shouts to the boys. The Safdies did do this.
Yeah, they did.
They gave hope to like everybody
They gave
who wanted to make
people
movies here,
extreme hope.
which is
People
huge.
like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that Dan was involved in it too, I was like, or that One Otrix made the music.
Yeah,
of
Like,
course, yeah.
I was just like, it's Dan. Like, Dan's doing it. Like he's
Yeah.
getting in there. Like we
Yeah.
all like from a bunch of musicians that
Yeah.
have known Dan over the years. Like that was huge for us. We were like going to like the Regency IMAX to listen to One Otrix it was just it was emotional
I saw
It was
Run
for us.
DMT and One Otrix together way back in the day, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
dude. Yeah, it was not. Run DMT didn't know how to play live shows. Dan was so disappointed. I think when I first met Dan, he had listened to the first thing that I had made, and he came to the show really excited, and I was like, dude, I don't even make music. I'm just gonna loop. I don't know what. And he was just like, what the? Like, I was very confusing at the time. And I haven't seen him in so many years. And like, you know, I was just talking to Natalie because she just reconnected with him and Wise Blood. And like, I don't know, I think they are doing something together. And I was like, man, I should text Dan, like, you know, but we have no idea. Like, we're just like,
Yeah.
he's doing big things, you know. I haven't seen him in so long, and I would love to connect with him, dude.
He's the shit.
Yeah, and obviously he's an insane film head, you
Yeah.
know.
He's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Maybe even bigger than a lot of film heads.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so one thing I wanted to quickly touch upon, which we've talked about, but like, yeah, so like the way that I really started making music was when I was leaving Micah. Like, I had messed around with GarageBand and stuff a little bit in my life, but basically not really. And like, I was reading Chocolate Babka, the blog that was based here, but I had no idea where it was based. And a bunch of me and my friends in Baltimore were really like that blog, and you know, all this like experimental drone music and like Big Troubles, like 1-0 Tricks. That was the first place that I found out about Dan's music, and I was really inspired by it. And I was like, I want to like figure out how to make some random sample-delic music.
Yeah.
So I just made shit for like a couple months, and then I made a Mediafire link because that's how the blogs would post the stuff. And I followed the nomenclature of like how they did it. So I like named it Run DMT Bon Voyage.
Oh, you're taking me back. Yeah.
You know, like I made it like in the image of the way that he could very easily post this. And then like I kind of gamed him and like sent it to him, and he was like, "What is this? Can I post it?" And he did, the blogger, and then I guess he was like really good friends with Dan and a few people, and then people started to like it and share it among other blogs. But it was just sort of a one-off thing, like in my confused what am I doing at art school thing. Like, I didn't plan on doing music, and especially didn't plan on like learning how to make songs or anything. And people liked it, and people like Dan, people that I really look up to and I always have, like. And so I came up to New York and met a bunch of the people, and I don't know, they gave me a lot of like support, and they were like, dude, like, it's cool, like, you know, we like your music. And I was like, my music? Like, I was like thinking of it as like an art piece. I was like, music. And then over the years, like, I became best friends with McGregor, who was the blogger of that. But one of the things that you guys touched on with Crail is he was one of those people that maybe, who knows how big the audience for Chocolate Babka was, but everyone right around it were people that were gonna start bands or already had. And like, there's waves of influence. Like, his blog was really big, and because he was the first person to write about my music, he put me visible to a lot of people, you know, like, and then, I basically wouldn't have started messing around with music if it wasn't for Dan. And I definitely wouldn't have committed to getting to this point in music if it wasn't for McGregor. And then so for the next 10 years, McGregor was like, he mostly lived in Greenpoint. He worked at Kickstarter, and I would just stay with him. And he was always putting on shows, and he fostered this project. And then so this whole time I was like, I want to work with you. Like, you should manage me. And he was like, I don't want to work in the music industry, you know, because he's just a really smart, savvy person that actually guides me through everything. Right. And then finally, like, I guess 2 years ago now, he was like, all right, let's do it. Like let's do, like, let me manage you. I'll figure out how to do it, you know? And he's such a good, like, he's just, you know, big shouts, basically. Big shouts. But I think you probably know about that blog. Like, you know,
oh yeah.
It was so good. But he was one of those people that got pulled into the altered zones, like psy-op, where it's like, it's like, hey, we're Pitchfork guys. Come on in. Like, we like what you're doing. We're going to create a little clubhouse for you. And then they were like, pulled the plugs. And they
that was the beginning of the end.
Disenfranchise all of those people from their original audience. You guys talked about it with Krell, I think, but that was just the saddest thing for the music scene.
I really think that was the beginning of the end. It was all steady downhill from there. Yeah.
It's insane. But
We can't let that happen.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
We can't let,
For the Ion Pack?
we can't let
Yeah.
824
IFC.
open our
IFC is
clubhouse.
IFC is like knocking at the door. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna put you through our channel now, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to show your faces.
Yeah. No, but that
Yeah,
actually.
this episode is sponsored by the Sundance Institute.
By the Doc Lab. That's why I was talking about docs. Like,
Yeah.
There's a guy over there
It's
telling me
it's
to
a
talk
secret
about it.
psyop the whole time.
Yeah.
No, but that actually is an important point to all the listeners in a, Instagram, Twitter era of numbers being extremely important. A few hundred hyper dedicated followers who and catering to them, like actually showing them things that you care about, like you're talking about with Chocolate Babka, is 10,000 times more valuable than thousands of regular followers or fans, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
and that's how those waves of influence happen, and that's the type of thing that leads to like Winotri's Point Never scoring like a huge Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
Like that all starts with those little things.
Yeah.
That's like why they're so important.
Yeah. I mean, I think the people that you guys talk to are, they're people that they're all types of people, but like you tend to talk to some people that don't just think about art making in this one way, or like are trying to build on their like philosophy of how they interact with media, and they have a lot of questions, and like they're very existential, like people. Like I just like it's a good mix of people, and I think that kids really appreciate it. And I talk to people like I was like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but since I realized that I was going to come on this podcast, I'll like be like, I'm going to go on this podcast. Like the last couple weeks in LA, and people are like, oh yeah, I love Ion Pack. And I'm like, I thought it was this little secret.
Yeah.
But people just really love film. Like that's what we all do behind closed doors.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know what's funny that reminds me of is like, because we were at like my friend's bachelor party last night, and like he was one of the pillars of the noise scene for me in Baltimore, and like he basically started the Tribal House. And I remember back in the day, I hadn't started to try to write songs yet. I was still trying to fit in with like all the noise people around me that are still like, I think like they're the gods of music to me, like the freaks, but I couldn't cut it, dude. I'm like too like I don't know, like I'm kind of like a square, like I couldn't hang with Griffin playing that music. Like he does it amazing.
Yeah.
Or like Dog Dick or anything.
You didn't feel like a freak enough?
I didn't know. I felt like a freak, like psychologically, but maybe not like aesthetically or something.
Yeah.
But so I didn't know what to do, but I was living there, and I remember being like, just, I was like, man, I just listened to Jackson Brown and I'm not cool.
Yeah.
But then you realize when you're at those shows, like at the bank or something, it'll be like some dude like smashing his head against the ground with like EKG machines, like boom, boom, looping it and like frying an egg and like throwing it on Twig's face or something.
Yeah.
And then like they'll be over and everyone will be like, holy shit. And someone will be like, go put like the Grateful Dead on or something, And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like there is a place for that music in this scene, like. And it took me a really long time. I made a lot of bad music. And I feel like at this point, especially the album that I made over the quarantine, like I feel like it's gotten pretty close to something that maybe Duncan Moore or Chris Shields would throw on.
Yeah.
To reset the vibe after some like violent, like performative art that we all thought was really scary, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that these kids are still the gods.
I know.
Dude.
It's because they're so committed and it's so fearless.
Well, I mean, Chris Shields is committed to this, for any listeners, he was called Marcel du Swamp back in the day. He was a person that always really inspired me that I lived with, but he's just like beyond everyone. Cause now it's like he's committed to God knows what.
Yeah,
he's a scientist. He's like in Antarctica, like
literally
studying,
in Antarctica.
like I mean, I'm a Philistine. I don't even know what my friend is doing. But when he was making modular synth music, it was like miles ahead, and now he's like,
That's what happened
out
to those people who are
in the science field. Like, of course, like he's a genius.
That's what happens to those people who are so advanced. Their medium, they almost outgrow their medium. Like,
100%.
I was just talking to Theo. Theo's like studying woodworking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like he's like talking about like how to build a city and a house and shit. You know what I mean? He's like already like beyond film.
I know.
He's too advanced for the medium. He's like, I have to like build the actual city.
I know. I'm just excited that I'm like not that advanced in my brain, because I'm like, I can get to film and be like, yes, I'm like work as hard as I can, like in making these flicks. But like, there are those people who are just like intellectually, they can't be tied down to like a medium.
I'm the opposite. I'm just like, I want to film now I made a movie and I'm so frustrated about that. I want to film a static shot podcast that doesn't need to be edited. I can just release
pretty
it all
obvious
the time.
what's going on here.
It's like, this is such a safe space for me, where it's like, no, I just want to like make life nice and like not so difficult.
Wait, so can I explain the documentary that I started?
Yeah, I was going to say. I want to get back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was living in Chinatown, LA, like maybe 4 years ago, I was living with my friend Joe, who played drums for Mac DeMarco for many years. And like, he became one of my best friends through knowing Mac, and we lived together. And Joe was really interested in film, and we would basically just talk all night, watch films and talk about what we wanted to do. And at the time also, he was really interested in like truther videos, and like he's just really interested in, and this is where we connected on, like the psychology of like people who are paranoid and like conspiracy theories. But we are like, the guy who made like Room 237, I forget his name, but I like met him on the street right after I saw that movie, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, what do you think about these theories about Kubrick and that you're putting in your film? And he was like, I have no idea. He's like, I don't think they're correct, really. He's like, I'm just interested in why are people so obsessed in this movie?
Yeah, and why it catches on.
So we were talking about it. We were like, if we can find a subject that we can really zero in on, just like a film that's like about paranoia, but like not buying into anything, like being objective, and like, so we're like watching all these. He's like watching all these videos about like the Twin Towers, and he's watching videos about like these like crisis actors and all this stuff, and then like he's watching it on like my computer because it's the one set up with the projector, and then like my YouTube just becomes like all polluted with like this crazy like ephemera of like paranoia. And then at one point we see these videos that are like basically about gangstalking and targeted individuals.
Oh,
do you know what that is?
I know all about that.
You do know about this?
Yeah. I've gone down this paranoia
so we were
rabbit hole
going
too.
down that road, watching videos of people who were like just taking their camera down the street and being like filming for hours, and being like, when they see a red car, be like, see, there's another one. Like basically targeted individuals, for anyone who doesn't understand the concept, is like, what I ended up finding out is it's like a lot of people who have this debilitating paranoia, call it what you will. Like the jury is not up on what causes a lot of these delusional disorders, but they, for so many years, were pushed into invisibility. They're like, if you're that paranoid, like society just funnels you into a corner, and then you become agoraphobic because you don't want people, you're paranoid. So like, you don't want people to know what you're thinking, and you feel like you need to sequester yourself away. So a lot of these people who are struggling and sick, like they end up definitely not being able to find a community in each other. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, here comes YouTube. Yeah. And like, so these people basically were sharing these videos. Like, this is the mailman. This is the guy who's beaming the voices into my head. He's gang stalking me. So they're making videos to prove, like evidence videos.
Right.
So we're watching these videos and we're just like, this is really tragic. Mm-hmm. Also, we loved like psychological thrillers. This is one big psychological thriller, and it relates to the epidemic of like how the internet is like interacting with like mental illness, and like we were just like, this is really wild and like scary. But
Yeah.
like we got like addicted to watching these videos. But anyways, it wasn't leading to me making a film about anything, right? But then eventually I start getting this ad on the bottom that's like, are you being targeted psychotronically? Like, are you being electronically harassed? Are you getting voice to skull like harassment from these gang stalkers? Call 1-888, and it's like this woman with like a smiling. And so I'm just like, what is this? And I look up and I look into this company, and it's a company that basically is in New Jersey, and it makes these monolithic boxes that are just like vaguely technological looking, and they're just like, this is the Defender, like plug this in your house, and when these actors are shooting these voices in your head, as long as this box is around you at all times, bring it with you on the go. The Defender Junior, have the Defender like Mega in your living room, have one in your bedroom. All of these boxes are like $1,000 or like up to like $3,000, and they have all this literature for like technologically what it's doing with these scalar waves. It's just so vague. I'm like, what is this? So I start calling this company, and I'm just like, at the beginning, I'm like, yeah, like, you know, I want to get a Defender, and like asking about it. And then eventually I start talking. I call this woman like a number of times, who is the person.
Yeah.
And I start to find out that she just got this job on Craigslist, and she has no idea really what's going on with this company. Like she's just like the customer service rep of basically a shadow company that's like manipulating like people, like basically potentially delivering good placebos to people who are paranoid, but definitely extremely shady.
Yeah.
And so I am like, I become pretty chummy with Amy. I'm like, Amy, I'm making a film about gang stalking and harassment. It's objective, but we do have some things going on in the film, and I think it's going to be pretty explosive. Like I hadn't started anything, you know, but I'm just like basically trying to like let her know, like, you guys want to be in this film. Like you want we want your company to be in this documentary. And she was basically like, let me talk to my boss. I'll call you. And she like emailed me. She's like, he said like, no way. Like I started to get the idea that this dude is like really paranoid himself. So then me and Joe, we kind of stay on it, but we're kind of like losing the plot, you know, like communicating with her. And then one day out of the blue, she like called me, and she was like, he agreed. He said, you have to be here in like 24 hours, New Jersey. And I'm like in LA, like literally just finished the end of comedy.
Yeah.
Like I have like no money at the time. I'm like, I spend all my money, and Joe's on tour with Mac. He's not even home. So I spend all my money just like flying like that day to New York with no plan, no camera. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you going to do? You know, like I want to like interview these people. Like, you know, I want to make documentaries, but I've spent my whole life not being ready to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So then like I randomly, my friend was working for this guy who does like documentary producing for like spot stuff for like HBO or different things. He like is like a day producer. And he was like, he heard that I was here and I wanted to do this. And he was like, you should talk to this guy. And I went over, pitched this thing. He got like a small crew of people together and like basically worked with me in order to come do this thing. And like, I spent all my money, rented this SUV, and we went down there. And basically the whole operation was like, it was like being inside of a schizophrenic person's brain. And like, this is where I started to realize that I couldn't make this film, because all of the footage that we got, the interviews, we have her showing the products and explaining everything. But like the footage that I got is so distressing to like actually be there and feel that like there's a lot of money being passed through this place. And like, there's a lot of people that are really sick. Like she's explaining that, like off camera, she's explaining that like a lot of people's parents call and they're like, why did you let my son or my like father spend all of his disability money because he's schizophrenic on these fucking boxes? Like, and you don't offer refunds. Like there was so much stuff going on, and the interviews were so just chilling. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm actually entering into a world that I don't think I can step into at this point in my life. Like at the same time, it's like I have to finish this album. I'm almost done. And then I'm like, am I really going to step into this world? Like, am I going to throw away this 2 years of music I just made? Like, and then I started, we did these interviews. They're insane. And then I came back to LA, and Amy gave me the number of a bunch of people that use the boxes in LA who think they're being gang stalked. And I started communicating with a few of them because I was like, okay, I'm just going to follow them around, and I'm going to talk to them about what they really think is happening and their experience basically being paranoid during this anxiety epidemic, you know? But I started talking to these people, and obviously, immediately, they started to think I was gang stalking them.
Right.
So it was like, part of me was like, some people were like, dude, just do it. Like, like people like Mac, they were like, you know, this is a crazy story. And if anyone's going to get wrapped up in like a schizophrenic underground subculture, you should do it now. But like, I realized that like making a film that deals with, I want to make nonfiction, but you really have to have a handle on like, that subject is just impossible to tackle, because the thing about schizophrenia is that nobody really knows exactly what it is. It's a delusional disorder that has no physical way to be tracked in the brain. Like, it doesn't show up physically on someone's brain. The only treatment for it is kind of, to what I understand, is kind of like a dulling of like certain set areas of the brain, so that, you know, it's just trying to like counteract like something that is always been a mystery, really. And I realized that the film was heading towards being like a crazy, like big arc noir about like what is happening, what is happening in the human brain to a lot of these people. And then it led me down to like finding out from Stu, who runs East Records in Baltimore, who also has worked at Hopkins, that there's a guy at Hopkins who's trying to find a parasite similar to the cat parasite, toxoplasmosis, that he thinks we just haven't found yet, and that people who are schizophrenic are being controlled by like a microparasite that hasn't been discovered yet. And I just realized that the film would take like 20 years to make, and somebody like Adam Curtis needs to make it or something, you know. But it was Andy should make it, and you know, whatever. Like Andy, I got a lot of good footage about this company. Talk to me. But like, it was a good experience being like, I do want to make documentaries, and like it's a rabbit hole. Like, if you have a good subject, like, and you want to follow a story the way that like Errol Morris does, you know, like if you want to be an investigator, like it could take your whole life, but you have to be committed, you know? And at the time I had a lot of stuff going on with my music project, and I got swallowed up by it, you know? But it was, but that was the experience I said where afterwards I like completely broke down cathartically. I was just like, it felt like I was like finding out my sexuality. I was like, oh my God. Filmmaking is real. Like, it just means so much to me, like, you know. But that is the plan. There's like, I'm working on another nonfiction movie now that I won't talk about, but it's like, it's finishable, you know. But that's one of the
legwork for this one.
What?
You did a lot of legwork for this one. There's you kind of already started.
And now I'm being gang stalked, and I'm
no, that sounds incredible. But yeah, it is sort of like once you start seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes, you realize that you have to climb up some sort of mountain to actually tackle it in a way that isn't just like some Netflix hot doc of the week.
Right.
When I see Theo's movies, I'm like, dude, how lost did you get making this one?
Yeah.
Like, you know, but
he
I think
gets 5-6 years lost. Yeah. And you kind of have to.
And it's really cool the way his films feel like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you are working on something about this, so I'll beep it out if you don't want to talk about it. But, well, I know you got plenty of stories, but I know you have a lot of experience on trains.
Oh, yeah.
There's something there.
Well, yeah. That's so like when I left Micah, before I'd started making music, but before I really started to come up here and stay with McGregor, I spent like about a year and a half on and off, like hopping freight trains, not because I wanted to be in that subculture, but because I was following a girl that I loved, and like another one of our good friends wanted to go, and like somebody came to town who was riding trains, and we all kind of just like needed to disengage from being at that age, not knowing where you want it to go with your art. And I ended up getting totally sucked into that world, and like I ended up branching off from them, and like whatever, just riding trains for a while and being, you know, getting in the ditches, trying to work off a little like privilege as an artist, and like getting lost, you know, and like kind of like just getting hungry again and not being able to think about what do I want to do with my art. And like trains were just an incredible means of just getting to a baseline of like my own humanity, you know, because you're alone or you're with one friend for weeks at a time in these like in between towns where like nothing is going on, and it takes you away from, you know, the rigmarole of like being in a scene. And you know, it just was it was very good for me. If I didn't do that, I don't think I would be doing any of the things that I'm doing now. But in terms of funny stories, there's one really crazy story that I haven't really told, but like so like now when I ride trains, I just rode a train like a month ago, I think, or something like that. But I just do it like in a totally like fun, like vain way where I used to actually not have $0 and like I was just camping, you know?
Yeah.
When I was like, whatever, 20 when I was doing this. But now I like fly places just because it's the best place to ride a train, and then I'll like ride a train and then like fly home. Like it's like so bougie, it's insane. But now it's like that, and it's really fun. But when I wanted to teach some people how to ride trains, like basically just do one of these trips, like back in the day, I took a couple of people that I work with. Sasha's one of them, and we went up to Portland. We hitchhiked, and we were gonna come down on this train because I knew from right below Portland in like Salem, right where to get on this train. So we go to Portland, we play some music, we borrow some instruments, and then play this little show, and then we go to the train yard. And when you're waiting for trains, there's like definitely some rules you have to look out for, but you're waiting for trains to come hiding basically off of just out of view of like the train, the rail cops or the people working, and you're waiting for these trains to come through and stop so that they can be changed, rearranged, or the conductor of this train can get off and start conducting another train so they come home at the end of the night. And it's called a crew change. So that's like when the kids like us are waiting in the bushes. But in this case, I hadn't ridden trains in so long. Like I'd become a musician, and I was like, I'm going to take you guys, like, I'm going to show you. And I was like really rusty. I was like, is this the right spot? Like, you know, like I know I've been here before. And the trains were just not coming. And we like spent a whole day. They were like, what did you do? Like, nothing's happening. Like, we have lives. And I'm like, wait, no, like stay in the romantic mindset. And finally a train came through, but all of the boxcars were closed. And when boxcars are open, that means they're empty, and the people are just waiting to fill them. So those are train cars that you can go in, but there's like unwritten rule, or I guess it's written in this subculture where if one is closed, you don't open it. You can open them, but it's like it becomes like a felony or something. Right. And also, if you open one of these things and you don't properly like secure it open with like a metal spike or something, it can, when the train stops, it can slide back and shut, and then people die that way. So there's just this thing where it's like, if the boxcars are closed, just wait. You're not getting on this train. But I was so nervous that like my friends were like getting so impatient, and they were just gonna like leave, like fly back. I was like, it's okay, we can open this. And so we opened this boxcar in the middle of the night in Oregon. And then my friend Sal that we were with, he was like, I have a really, really good camping rope that's strong. So he like tied the door to it. And we got in this boxcar basically, and they were like excited. And it was in the middle of the night, so everyone went to bed. The whole night I was watching the door. It was just like this little thin camping rope. He was like, no, it's good. It's from REI. The door was just like pounding like this, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna
be responsible for these beautiful
Yeah.
artists' deaths. Like, and then we're like going down from Oregon down towards the bay. I think it stops right before it gets to the bay. But whenever it goes by Mount Shasta, I'm always get really excited because I love Mount Shasta. I don't know if you know about that place, but it's just rife with a lot of like conspiracy stuff. Like there's like a government base. It's like a hollow, like volcanic place. Like there's a government base in there, and we always like think it's funny. So as in the morning, Sasha wakes me up, and he's like been up all night. He's like really excited to be on a train for the first time, and he's drinking some like coffee, like instant coffee. He's like, Mike, we're going by Mount Shasta. So I wake up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this part of the ride, and there is like this tunnel that the train goes through. Trains go through the sides of the mountains for like 2 minutes a lot of the time. And we're waiting, we're about to get to like the foot of the mountain, and we go through this tunnel, and it doesn't come out the way that it usually does. And the train kind of slows down in the dark and like goes left. No one is going to ever believe this story, but it's true. And I can back it up with a few witnesses. It goes like left, and it stops. It's supposed to go south, but it goes like inland. And then it comes out a different exit just in going into like the Mount Shasta like wilderness. And immediately when it comes out, there's huge fences, like huge like electrical. It looked like Jurassic Park or something. I was like, I know that there's nothing here. I know that Mount Shasta is barren wilderness. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? And I swear on my life, we're like watching the fences, and then like right before they saw us, there's like two like Aryan looking military people with guns just scanning each train car as it's slowing down. So we both like fall out of the view of this little opening that we made in this boxcar. But it's I realized at this point, this is probably there probably is a military installation here. This train is probably a decoy. Like there's probably a few of these boxcar containers that are filled with supplies. I have no idea, but I knew that we were at some military installation that was unmarked in the woods. I also knew that we opened up one of these doors that all of them are supposed to be shut, and
you see a rope.
I'm like,
there.
dude, we are fucking dead. So when the train like slows down, like I don't know, like a quarter of a mile up, it was like a long string of cars. I was like, everybody wake up, like grab your IDs, leave your backpacks. Like we need to run through the woods. Like we're going to be detained, and I'm really scared. And we all are so scared that we just can't do it. Like we can't make a run for it. And then we all hear just like vibrations, like they're unloading something, luckily at the very other end of the train. And we wait there for like an hour, like fucking pissing our pants. Like, and they were just like, why did you bring us here? And I was like, this is not what happens usually. Like, it's usually Huck Finn, you know? But I was like, oh no, like actually like we went too deep into the like matrix of like hiding in plain sight, you know? But like, luckily somehow the train backed up the other way after like an hour and went back through the tunnel, and then it continued on to San Francisco. And there's people, as you can probably tell from this story, I'm like a fair weather train person. Like real train people are like, dude, fuck this dude. He's an oogle. Right. Which is true. I am. I'm not a real train kid, but like I asked some people that are in the know about that, and they were like, they have heard of that happening to a few people over the years, and they basically say that it was just what I thought. There's like every once in a while, it's not an actual Union Pacific, which is the train company conductor, like maybe like a couple times a month, like there's like a military train conductor that will be like drive some, just drive a few loaded containers of stuff for this military installation. Look it up. If anyone's curious, look it up, Mount Shasta.
Wow.
But I do think that no one should believe that story. But if you do DM Sasha Desiree and ask him, we both saw the kids, and it was really fucking scary.
Wow.
And this is like some Area 51 shit.
We're just like, it's usually so fun riding trains. Like sometimes you get caught and they're like, you're trespassing.
we're giving you a ticket. And you're like, it's so much more mellow than people say. Like, I just really like, the thing I like about it is, like, I struggle with like control. Like, you know, like I produce music with like 8 people around me making it. Like, I'm a control freak. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And like, being on a train is like, you have no choices. Like, once the train starts, it's like, you might be going the wrong way, but now you're going there, you know, like, there's no way to stop a train. Like, there's something about it's the magnificent, like, forward momentum of it that makes me feel like I can actually reflect on where I'm at in my life. Cause I'm always trying to figure out how to find forward momentum in my life. And, you know, and then the other thing is that the industry's so old. It's just a really interesting way to learn about America. Like, like, there are places that the freight train system goes that the Amtrak system does not go, and highways don't go. So there's places that I've seen in like Montana that, you know, I don't think I could have ever seen unless I was a conductor, you know, but there's just these untouched parts of America that the rail system still goes. And I just can't believe it's still going.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a dinosaur of like a mode of transport. Like, it's amazing, you know?
Chris Shields was a train rider, right?
Yeah.
Chris has ridden trains for sure. Yeah. He didn't get as deep into it as me or my friend Dylan did over the years, but yeah, it's really, I mean, I'll take you guys.
Yeah.
He can do like an Ion like episode, like a
a
Zune episode.
Yeah, that's beautiful. No, it sounds just the metaphor of it. And the experience.
It's good.
It sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Chris told me there's like maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but there's like some secret book.
Oh, the crew change.
Down. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll talk about it. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a guide that basically has been written over the years by people who have ridden trains. I mean, like, people who are in that life, like, a lot of them were people that worked on the trains, so they have access to like rail maps and all the information about the train. So when they transfer, however they do, into becoming just a train enthusiast, or maybe they still work there, that happens a lot too, and they love riding trains whenever they are not working.
Right.
They're just heads, basically. So they make this zine that everyone a bunch of people in that world like update every year about, like, it's basically like, if you want to go from this place, if you want to leave this city and you want to go northbound, take the number 32 bus to this like warehouse, walk 0.3 miles to the left of it. There's a hole in the fence. Go here. It basically just tells you exactly where to wait if you want to go northbound. And then when a train rolls up on the second track coming to the right, you know that's going to be going through all these different checkpoints and places where you can get off. So like there's a guide that will, you know, literally show you how to traverse the world in this shadowy way, but it's very organized. And I mean, the people are so dedicated, and they're literally insiders. So like they know better than anyone where these trains are going and how they're being updated, their schedules and stuff. But it's not something that's on the internet. Yeah. And like you have to get it from another person who's doing it. And that people definitely don't talk about it on podcasts.
Yeah, that's why
people get like shot over that.
Yeah.
You know? or shivved.
Oh, are you gonna get shamed for it now?
No, I have no respect in that world.
But how long do you go for? Like, do you bring shit? Like, what's the deal?
Well, now I go for like 8 hours. Like, I bring like some like Casamigos and like a book, you know. But like the last time I went on a long trip was like, it was with my friend that we were with last night. It was, I think, 4 summers ago. I lived in New York for the summer, and then I think it was 4 summers ago, whatever. We were a lot of our friends were grieving from the Ghost Ship fire. Ship fire, where I lost one of my best friends in that. Who? Big shouts, Joey Cassio up there.
Big shouts.
But I was like trying to live in New York, and I was just like confused. And then I was like, it's time to move back, go back to Los Angeles. But I canceled my flight, and I was like, I want to ride trains. I haven't done it in so long. So I convinced my friend Dylan, which is the trip that made us as close as we are now, to go with me, because we both had ridden trains in the past. And yeah, we just left from Baltimore
connected, got off in Illinois, went all the way into Chicago, and then from Chicago got on and went to Seattle. All of those connections take like time to like figure out how to get onto the next train, and you have to sleep in these random towns. But that whole trip, we got from Baltimore to the West Coast, got off in Seattle in like 7 or 8 days, which is really fast. Most of the time people are like, I think I'm in the wrong place, and they get stuck places for days. But, you know, to go across the country, you can do it in like a week, and you're just fully just charging your phone when you can, like when you go get more water between the stops, like totally getting side-eyed by these people in random towns like Fostoria, Ohio, like hitchhiking like 5 miles just to get to this other train yard. Like, it's just really beautiful, you know, like it's really nice to, and just it's really nice to get in touch with, like, people say middle America, but I mean like these like literal like in between towns where it's like this town is only here because trains stop here. That's like the only reason that it exists. And then there's a lot of just people living there in the fray that will be like, oh, you guys riding through, and like people will help you out or try to, and like help you get where you're going. And it's just really cool, you know, like coming from an art scene where it's not like that. Nobody's trying to help you get where you're going. You get a lot of like faith back about like people and just your path in your life.
That's what I've heard about it is, there's these just towns all across the country where it's kind of a normal thing that everybody knows about because and there's copy shops around everywhere that fully know about it because people get off and they go to copy shops to make a copy of the crew change, and then mail it from there because there's usually like a UPS
Dude, it's
thing.
like, I mean, you know, in New Orleans that culture is huge. It's mainstream. Like,
right.
There's a catch out spot, which is where you wait for the trains, where you catch out. And then there's like, I think there's like a bar called like the Catch Out, and it's like right behind it, and you can like be like drinking a beer, and then like the whistle will come, and everyone will be like, the bartenders will be like, ring a bell, and then someone will be like, close my tab. I mean, it's a huge subculture. I just am very on the outskirts of it. Like, I'm glad that I know how to do it to literally like take people like, you guys, if you ever wanted to try it, just
I want to do
while
it.
that exists, it's like, you know, it
won't exist.
It's something to experience, I think. Just like, and also just hiding from people. Dude, like, life has gotten so bleak. Like, it's just nice to just hide from some people sometimes and run away from some people. You know?
It's so romantic.
It is. I just rode a train from Baltimore to Richmond, which was like really short. It's like 6 hours or something. But I was going down to do a songwriting thing that was part of my publishing deal, where I was going to meet this girl, Kate Bollinger, who ended up becoming a very good friend of mine, and I wrote the song with her. But I was just going down there to do that, so I used the opportunity to ride a train, and it was so beautiful and amazing. But the security has gotten a little tighter, and as we were leaving in Baltimore, the train started to pull out, which is a good feeling. You're like, okay, I'm actually going to be going somewhere today. And this huge like drone flew like right over me for a second, and then as it was leaving Baltimore, and I was like, like I guess security's gotten tighter in the last 8 years. and then it's funny because then you roll through Micah. So whenever you catch out of Baltimore, you like roll through the art school that you like dropped out of. And then when I got to Richmond, I like was getting off the train, and I guess that's how it works. Like, the drone saw me, and they're like, yep, just wait for him. Just go through all the cars in Richmond. We're not going to stop the train right now. So there was like some rail cops like waiting for me to like look for me. And they had to like go looking down the train at all the cars. And like when they were turned away, I had to like jump off with my bag and like hide behind some like generator box. And like I had to cat and mouse with them for like 30 minutes before realizing that it was like there was no way out without walking straight out of the front. And I was basically gave myself up, or like let them come around and see me. And I was like, hey, and like, and they were like, hey, what's up? You're going to get a ticket. You're going to come over here. I was like, for sure. How you guys doing? But like, it was fun, you know, like I was like, I feel alive, which is the most privileged ass shit to say, but like the thing is like they know it's a relationship that those real people have with the kids that are riding. Like, you know, like people are like, do you ever get the shit beat out of you? I'm like, no. Literally, just like, I don't know, just culturally, like they'll make fun of me, but
yeah.
What?
Were you alone?
I was alone on that trip. Yeah.
And how big's the ticket?
That ticket was like $120.
Oh,
I was like, "Are you serious?
Like
the Amtrak ticket would have been more than this."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
It was sick.
Worth the ticket.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then to be able to, like, I never have done this in the past, but I always wanted to. But then be able to be like, you know, go into a studio, be like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Mike. Like, let's do some work." It felt so sick to be like almost arrested, and then like, let's roll to this place and try to write a love song.
Yeah.
It was a good situation.
When you're in the boxcar, is it just like flat ground? Like, are you bringing like a
that wasn't
or?
Mostly I don't ride boxcars, but in a boxcar it's just empty. It's just like cold, empty. But the trains that I like to ride, because boxcars go really slow. They're called General Manifest, and they can get broken up at any time, so they stop all the time and for hours. But then the ones that I like to ride are called intermodal. So those are like containers filled with like UPS packages or like Tropicana juice, you know, things that need like Amazon stuff, like which is sad to say now. This is what the trains are filled with. Like stuff that needs to move, you know, that has like 1 to 2 business day guaranteed shipping, and so those trains move and they go far. So those ones you don't really go inside of any container; they're filled and locked. But where they connect, there are these little areas, these little sunken porches that are there as like a safety precaution for if a worker was, I don't know, like doing maintenance and then his radio went out and the train started. It's a safe place that he could lay.
But it's outside.
It's outside.
So you're like
fully in the
outside.
elements.
Yeah. Sick.
It feels good. Yeah.
Damn.
And at night.
Have you ever done it in the rain?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've gotten soaked. But at night, like in the midnight moon, when you're with like one other person and the train just going across like, you know, like heartland, like fields and stuff, like it seriously does not get more fire than that.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
That's insane.
That's insane heat.
Yeah. We have not
like just the isolation of that and like sharing a moment, like a wordless moment with someone that you really care about, just being like, this is nuts out here. Like it's so beautiful. There's no one around. Like, you know, we're like playing a video game. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Oh.
Very cinematic.
Damn.
And
has this broken into the mainstream? Like, is there a movie that like depicts this?
There's so many like documentaries about train riding.
Okay.
There's a movie called Bozo Texino, like, but you know, it's a niche culture.
Yeah. Have you seen anything about it that you liked or thought was like done well and
about
respectfully?
it? No, I haven't seen anything about it. Yeah. Also, have never read On the Road. That's like people always ask me that. I'm like, never read it.
I think it gets unfair slack. I think On the Road is.
I'm sure it's good. I just, you know, it just wasn't one of the ones.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A documentary that was literally like documenting that experience would probably be fire.
Yeah.
Like more about the
Cut
experience.
This part out.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. That's,
I see.
That's what I was trying to avoid.
No.
I see.
Yeah.
We're at an hour.
I made a time code so in case you want to cut it out.
40,
I think this has been good.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
No. I got plenty more. Not plenty more.
We can keep going.
Yeah. Well, I
would
just
flight is. I think we're good.
I was just going to say the last story is I know.
Yeah, we're good.
I know that after you rode that train you're talking about, you came back with to a new animal friend, correct?
What?
After that train riding experience, you adopted a new friend.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody, my music career is totally eclipsed now by this pet that I got.
Yeah, who I met, and it's insane heat.
There was this, so Sasha, who sings with me, big shouts, best singer ever.
Big shouts.
His girlfriend grew up in this family, Zorthian. There's like this ranch at the top of Altadena in LA. It's kind of like this sick, amazing property that their grandfather sequestered back in the day, and he was a sculptor, and they live up in this place. The pandemic was pretty like idyllic, I think,
her and her family and their boyfriends and girlfriends. But like, they had this pig for a long time, Hildy, and Hildy was just one of these pigs that people get. They think they're gonna get a mini pig, and then they find out that doesn't exist, and the pig gets big, and then they try to give them to some people like my friend Tara and her family with land. So they just had this pig that was just chilling, this big old pig. And then at some point during the pandemic, Hildy just disappeared, like walked down the hill. And then Hildy came back like a day later or something and was pregnant. So somehow Hildy went out and like used Tinder, pig Tinder in LA and got fucked and then came back up the hill and then had this litter and like, they're just like, fuck, we did not want a huge litter of pigs. Like it's not like it's not a meat production farm. Like they're just, they're just living,
Right.
So right before I went on this trip, I saw they had just gotten born and I saw that they were just amazing. I was like, when I get back from this trip, I'm going to get one. And everyone's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. But they were like, please do. We need to get rid of these piglets. And then when I got back from the trip, I was like, let's go. And so me and McGregor drove over in his car and we like went and looked at the pigs and there was like all these pink ones that were like growing. And there was one that was like black and white spotting that was so tiny. Like it was like a super runt. And it didn't seem like from what they were saying that there was a big chance that it wouldn't survive because, that's the pecking order thing with pigs. And there's only a certain amount of milk to go.
Right.
And so I just like snatched that pig up and brought it home with no plan. Like holding it, like McGregor's driving in the highway. He's like, what the hell are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I'll figure it out. But her name's Joni. And now she's like basically just like our dog or cat, basically.
That's so amazing. Pigs are fire.
But they are. And like we've been having we've been on a little bit of a bender this month and we've had a couple parties and they're kind of like, I don't know what they're for, but I think they're kind of for people. Everyone just wants to like see the pig, and she has like a little room like off of like my kitchen. And so people can like interact with her, kind of, and be at a party. And it's been really cute.
Yeah. She's super friendly. She's a pig that loves people.
Yeah. She's a narcissist.
Pork is actually the one type of meat that I actually do have like a moral problem. I mean, I still eat it, but like it's the one thing I feel actively bad about.
Dude, I shouldn't even say this, but I was like, oh, I'm not gonna eat pork anymore, I guess. Yeah. It's like, no, nice try. Yeah. But I'm like, Joni, you're different.
Yeah.
Like,
We're not gonna eat.
Would never eat you, Joni. Yeah. She's vegan, basically. She just eats like vegetable scraps.
I grew up with like my mom having like pig memorabilia, toys, images, mugs with pigs. Like she was so obsessed with pigs. I've been so obsessed just with the personality and the intelligence.
Dude, you should get out to LA and hang out with her before she gets big.
I would love to.
Because the size she's at now is like ideal.
I'd ride a train there.
Yeah.
The pig.
Dude, there you go. New movie.
Yeah.
Unplug that hard drive.
Yeah.
No, but I'm excited to see your film.
Thank you. I'm excited to see yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll make it if you want to do it out here.
I'm like basically did this podcast so to be like, I'm going to make a film this year and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
Setting yourself up so that you actually do it.
I have to do things like that all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That is 100% what I have to do.
Yeah.
I do stuff like that all the time. I tell people that I'm further along with something than I am because that means I have to get there so I can show it.
Do you know how many times I've been like lit at like a backyard party and been like, I'm making this film right now. It's about this. And I'm just like, okay, let's think of a new film idea. You're drunk. Like, like I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
If you need help making it.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Oh, for sure. I really want Sean to shoot
Price
something.
Williams?
Yeah.
Big shots.
We've talked about
Heard
stuff
of him,
before,
yeah.
but, he's getting priced out. All of the good people are like,
You could book him in like 3 years.
Yeah.
like wait for the downslope.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's busy. No, it sounds really
His
cool.
stuff looks so like
Piece of
Scorsese-esque,
Yeah,
like the movement the way he uses a steady he uses a steady cam. Yeah.
He's pretty handheld.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah.
But just it's so good the way he moves his camera
He's
movement.
a very lyrical touch to the handheld movement.
Oh, I also wanted to shout out for people that are like listening to this pod and they're like, I really want to watch a
documentary with my boo tonight in the sadness of our quarantine. My bass player Shags Chamberlain, big shouts from Australia.
Huge.
He's a legend, but he's turned me on to so many good documentaries, and like there is a documentary called Cane Toads. Have you heard about this?
No.
It's a movie that this guy from Australia, New Zealand made because do you know about cane toads? Were like this invasive species that came to down under and like totally took over and like were such a nuisance that like there were like national holidays where it's like everyone go out and do your part and bash these toads. Like people couldn't walk during certain seasons. Like they took over the continent basically.
Oh my God.
And so
I have heard about this.
This guy wanted to make a nature documentary, but he was like, they're such a nuisance that he was like, wanted to make it in the image of like an alien invasion. And so he made this film that Shags grew up loving, and most people in America haven't seen it, but it's called Cane Toads.
Sick.
And the funny thing about it is we were screening it like a couple years ago when he first showed me at my house, and one of our friends came over who is like, you might know about her. She's like the best whistler in the world, Molly Lewis.
Okay.
She's a great composer, and she's like Ennio Morricone, Alessandro Alessandroni level whistler. She's like maybe best in the world or something at this point. But she's in the scene, and she like makes the steeziest like film like music exotica. She's just got signed to, I don't want to say the wrong label, but her music's coming out now, Molly Lewis. And like she came over and we were like, oh, we're watching this movie. It's almost over, like, you know, sit down. And then when the movie was over, she was just like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys were watching my dad's film. Whoa. And like her dad is like this legendary documentary filmmaker. He came here and made a documentary in the same style on rats in New York with the same like monster movie. It's like he tried to make it in like almost like a Carpenter film, but it's like almost like a Carpenter Planet Earth. It's so funny, dude. Cane Toads. Yeah, I don't know. It's good.
For fans of rat film.
Oh yeah.
You could watch Cane Toads and just the rat.
Yeah, you could watch Cane Toads and rat film and do like a Zoom double feature with all your film club.
Yeah.
Dude, I got booted out of the film club.
Oh, I never joined the film club because I knew that would eventually happen.
I know.
To me. Yeah,
I know.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
That seems. I know.
I think you're supposed to join the film club and say like your top 10 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I always can't think about my top 10.
Yeah.
Like I've watched so many movies and I think about filmmaking so much that my mind is like erased when it comes to like what I want to tell people about, you know.
The movie club I believe in is called the Ion Pack Discord.
True.
Yeah.
We'll do film club there instead.
Damn, dude, I wish my Instagram didn't just get hacked and deleted again.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I could get on.
Hopefully, it's recovered by.
Oh yes, yeah. We can post about it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a picture of Joni like riding a train.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Can you send us some like train or?
Yeah.
Joni picture?
For sure.
Wait, but before we sign off, we had said that we have to tell our origin story, our connection.
Oh yeah. Last thing, go.
Yeah.
Lay it down.
It's hilarious. You don't know about this?
No.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, Sasha, who we've just talked about, big shouts. I knew this was a long time ago. This was like early 2010, so almost 10 years ago. I had an SP404, which is a sampler. It was actually sentimental to me because, as I told you, it was the first piece of musical gear besides a guitar that I ever got. It was like, I wanted to learn how to record and like make loops and shit when I was there. So I begged for it. My mom got it for me for Christmas when I was like 15 years old. First piece of gear I ever had. First time I ever recorded was on this thing. And I still had it with me, you know, in New York, but I never used it. And then I saw Sasha on Facebook back in the days of Facebook. It was like, we really need an SP404 for a show. And this was when he was doing...
Me and him were doing Silk Roads.
The Silk Roads, Mike's old band.
Yeah.
So I went and gave you guys... didn't meet you, but I just went and gave Sasha the SP404. And then since I never used it, I kind of forgot about it. And then like months later, I was like, oh, fuck, like I got to get that back from Sasha. But then I saw that Sasha had moved to LA. And
in the meantime.
Yeah. And I don't know, it just kind of disappeared. I think I like messaged him about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta like figure out who has it. Like I'll get it back to you." And then we just never followed up. And you know, it kind of just I was just like, you know what, it's out doing something. You know, I didn't care that it was sentimental to me. I was like, I was never using it, so it's out doing something with someone. I'm happy that it's recycled itself into the scene.
But the funny thing is that what happened to it, for however it happened, is like our really good friend Samantha Urbani.
Big
huge
shouts.
shouts.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was working at this guy's music studio. The guy from Junior Senior who wrote that song.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah, whatever.
Everybody move your
Yeah.
feet until you're
Yeah.
like that stuff. This dude Yepa, and then like somehow it ended up at his studio, and she's been like in New York for most of the pandemic, and we've met. I was like, we need to get this thing back.
Yeah.
You done fucked up.
Yeah, well, it was the two of us met. It was like the first thing. I was like,
Right.
we actually do have a connection.
And then Samantha randomly just got back to LA, and then we were telling her about this or something when we saw her out the other night, and she went over to that guy's house and she saw it and she snatched it back. So it's somewhere else now, but like
Oh, it
it's
still
got your
hasn't been-
name on it.
Yeah.
But the only problem with this is when we do give it back to you, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to do something with it.
No, that's
probably even
so
less.
true.
If
Yeah.
someone's doing something with it, I want them to
I don't
have
think
it.
anyone
want
was.
this-
I don't
this-
think that machine is going to get any use.
Yeah, that's
No.
right.
Maybe we could teach it how to edit like on Final Cut Pro. I don't know.
But I'm happy to know that, you know, I thought like, oh, that thing probably just got left at a tour stop somewhere, and it'll
There
just-
should be like
it'll
a national
gone.
holiday where people return gear to each other.
Yeah.
I should return the AX60 to Dan Winotrix.
Oh, true.
What is that?
He had an Akai AX60, like super old synth. Before I had actually met him, I bought a synth from him off Twitter when I was in college. And I recently told him about this. He was like, "Oh, you were that fucker." But
We still have it.
but
Does he want it?
I never used it. It is now in your studio and
Yeah.
it's been used by multiple other people.
Oh,
I have the
okay,
same
good.
relationship where I'm like, I hope somebody's
Yeah, exactly.
making use of it.
I've had
somewhere.
so many things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just cool that I actually get to learn. Not that I want it back. I'm just happy I got to learn where
That we
it went.
have an origin story.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
you know what? All these people in the summer of love, they're trying to find each other, and like, y'all got no origin stories.
Yeah.
You're just swiping.
Yeah, we're
Like,
not just clout chasing.
we
over
need
here.
origin
These guys
stories
shared a
coming
synth.
out of
Yeah,
this
we-
pandemic,
yeah.
people. We need to
It's-
origin
It goes
stories.
way deep.
Well, I'm glad this was your last stop before you head back to
Yeah,
LA.
actually, do you think you could drive us to the airport?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
We're like not gonna make it if you don't.
No, yeah, we'll do it.
Shouts to you for doing this.
Oh, dude, a
This was
huge fan.
Huge
Only
pleasure.
podcast I want to be on, besides maybe Risk or like This American Life. That's it.
This America- What about Mark Maron? Let's give shit.
No. No.
I Unpack's better than Mark Maron.
For me, it is.
All right, sick.
Okay.
That's what I want to hear.
That's the best compliment I've received.
Yeah.
Big shouts to you. Thank you so much.
Big
Mike
shouts.
Drugdealer. Look out for his new shit. Everybody.
Look out for me at cons. Maybe don't stream my new album that's coming out. It'll just be in the algorithm.
We'll talk.
You don't have to look for it.
We'll talk to Sean.
Yeah.
All right.
Big shots.
Peace.